Hello guys, it is Dan here from Rock Salt and welcome back to another behind the scenes episode of what's going on in Rock Salts. Today I'm going to talk to you about the struggles, a little bit more detail of the struggles of hospitality and why most hospitality businesses are struggling in this current climate at the moment. Rock Salt has had a turbulent couple of years. The last couple of years has been up and down. You've obviously come out of COVID and things stabilised, and all of a sudden then there was huge gas prices, huge electric prices, huge overheads. So we're going to touch on a little bit of that throughout the episode. So what I kind of just wanted to kind of give you an idea of, I suppose, the business element of hospitality that you don't see. You see all the lovely stuff that we post on Instagram and how happy everybody is and how great the food is and the coffee and how well the business is going. But there's a lot more behind the scenes that goes on, especially around the financial element of things. And it's been challenging. Like anything in business, it's always challenging. And anybody who survives in business, you have to have a thick skin and you have to deal with all these elements that are thrown at you. And you relish the opportunities. You don't want it to be handed to you easy. So that's what it's all about, and that's why entrepreneurs like myself and business owners do the hard work every day, and it's a good challenge and it's exciting. So what I want to talk to you about is a little bit of, I suppose, the hidden costs that you might not see as a customer, or if you are looking at starting up your own business or your own coffee shop, what you need to be mindful of before you're getting into it. So I want to bring you back a little bit. There's been a couple of changes in cost. There's minimum wage has gone up. The cost of goods has gone up hugely. And obviously you've got more tariffs. You've got auto enrollment that just came in this year, which, don't get me wrong, I think it is a fantastic idea. But there's also levels that hasn't been caught up to it at the moment yet. So from my personal opinion, I will talk it through a little bit more detail. So basically what happened is Rock Salt started in 2018. I just want to highlight some of the costs from that. So back in 2018, when we first started, the national minimum wage was $9.55, okay? So that was minimum wage back in 2018. I'm going to compare that to our coffee prices at the time. So back in 2018, when we first opened, our standard cappuccino latte, we were charging €3.30. Then fast forward to now, 26. Minimum wage has gone up again. It's gone up the last 2 years quite significantly. Minimum wage is now $14.15. We pay slightly more, but $14.50 is the national minimum wage. Cost of our coffee now, cappuccino latte, any milky coffees, is $3.90. Okay, so if you look at this, there's nearly a just under 50% increase in labour cost of minimum wage gone up. However, if you look at consumer spend and what you can charge for a coffee, especially in our areas, Carrick, Blackrock, Dundalk, going up to $3.90, it is 18%. That is a huge difference. That obviously just shows the level that obviously minimum wage has gone up, cost has gone up 48%. Well, we've only been able to put the price of our coffee up to reflect that in certain areas by 18%. So just something that obviously, look, you always have to benchmark as a business owner. You always have to benchmark on what the consumer needs is and everything else that goes along with that. However, it's just something that you don't see and that people don't think about. So if we were to continue on the same trend as national minimum wage and we were charging coffee at €6, for example, I think everybody would be going mad and giving out. But that just puts little things into perspective sometimes from obviously a business owner's point of view. If you break down the cost of hospitality these days, so back in 2018, we used to have, I suppose, when I was in Shannon and when I was studying hospitality management, there was a few key things that you always looked at. What you wanted to do is you wanted your food cost to be under 30%. Okay, so that was always your target. 28% was kind of where you wanted to be at. You wanted your wages was always 28%. That was what I was always targeted as in the hotels and any businesses that I worked with before. that would allow for profit. And then you wanted your profit margins to be anywhere between 12 and 16%. Normally 20 if it was a cafe, but that was your profit margin, right? Today, we have a completely different set of, I suppose, parameters, what we're working at. Food costs, we try to keep it to 35%. So 5% increase on what we try to keep it at. Wages, however, anything at the moment, we're kind of fighting anything under 40 is what we always try to push for. Because as soon as you go over that 40 mark, you're losing money and it's not sustainable, it's never going to work. Currently at the moment, we're somewhere between 34 and 36% across the board. Depending, some of them are a little bit higher, some of them are a little bit lower, but on average, that is the wages. So again, a huge increase, nearly 8% increase from when we first started in 2018. Our profit margin, however, has been the biggest killer. So we used to be able to operate at 15-16% back in 2018 when we started. However, now the profit has gone right down. So you're talking about 5 to 8% is what you're trying to pull out of the business every week, every month, every year. And if you hit that, at least you're surviving, you're staying still. However, if you think about that, 5%, 6% as a profit, it's very, very hard to maintain and very hard to run. One thing happens that's out of your day-to-day control and it screws that up. For a good example, last week we just ordered a brand new Rational oven for our bakery. That cost us 10 grand. That 10 grand wiped the complete profit for the bakery for 8 months. So that just goes to show, another thing breaks down, another fridge, if a walk-in fridge goes down, if a coffee machine goes down, these are costs that you don't necessarily predict in your P&Ls, and that completely wipes out your profit levels. So that's why it's obviously very hard to try to understand from a business point of view how difficult hospitality is at the moment and why it has to be really, really important that it's managed correctly. And that is it in a nutshell. I hope you guys got something from that. It just highlights that, I suppose, the huge gulf in class in terms of how much expenditure is put on hospitality businesses these days, as opposed to what you can physically charge for items and for goods. That fits in with the national benchmark, if that makes sense. Now, don't get me wrong, I think it's great that the minimum wage is going up. I think it's fantastic that people are getting paid. That auto enrollment is another thing that's been added into that, which obviously affects our wage percentages and what you have to put out. 1.5% of everybody's salary that goes through our business. We are now putting into a pension fund for the teams as well. But it all comes at a cost. So it's really, really important that we manage that cost and we try to maintain it. Obviously, the government has introduced a new VAT rate coming down. So at the moment, food is 13.5%, and that will drop to 9% over the summertime, which is definitely a good thing for hospitality businesses. I do think they could do a lot more. I think it should have been 9% from the 1st of January. However, that is another debate that I can get into at another time. But I just hope that it kind of showcases a little bit more behind the scenes stuff that you wouldn't really see all the time, or that people maybe aren't shouting about as much. And when you see the prices of different things fluctuating, there's probably deeper reasons for it, unfortunately. So look, stay tuned. We will check out our YouTube channel, like and subscribe, and follow here for more behind the scenes at Rock Salt.